21 Phrase origins you never knew. Part 2. 11. Give someone the cold shoulder. It has been said that the Iliad is the story of a bad guest breaking hospitality rules, and all the chaos that broke out because of that. This suggests just how important hospitality was in the past. So it's no surprise that a guest would be received with a grand meal in the Middle Ages. However, what happens when they overstay their welcome? They would be served leftovers, such as a cold shoulder of mutton from the previous night's dinner, leading to this memorable phrase. 12. Hue and cry. Hue comes from Old French, where huer means crier. In the Middle Ages, if you saw a crime being committed, you were obliged to raise hue and cry, i.e., to shout and make noise to warn the rest of the community. 13. Let the cat out of the bag. A friend visiting an Algerian souk bought a beautiful silver necklace for his wife. The merchant made a big point of showing him the seal that proved the silver's high quality. However, when my friend arrived back home and gave the necklace to his wife, he discovered he'd been swindled while placing it into the gift box. The cunning merchant had replaced it with one that bore no such seal and was of lower quality metal. Perhaps my friend could take consolation from the fact that this trick is so old it has led to this popular idiom. The origins come from medieval markets where sneaky sellers would show a sample of their goods. For example, a pig, then give customers a sealed bag ready to go. However, what they showed wasn't what was inside, for example, placing a cat inside instead of a pig. Smart customers who checked their bags found out the truth and spilled the secret, letting everyone know. 14. Peeping Tom. This is an interesting one because it was first used in the 18th century, but refers to the medieval legend of Lady Godiva, dating back to the 13th century. According to the story, Godiva rode naked through the streets of Coventry to protest against the oppressive taxation imposed by her husband, Leofric, Earl of Mercia. Leofric had dared her to do this and promised he'd reduce the levy if she did. While in the original tale, nothing more happened except that the people enjoyed lower taxes. 18th century storytellers embellished it. In the new telling of the story, the townsfolk respected her wish for privacy as Lady Godiva rode through the streets by staying indoors with doors and shutters closed. However, Tom the tailor succumbed to curiosity and peered at Lady Godiva through a window. This peeping Tom then was blinded, either through divine punishment or from angry neighbors. 15. Played devil's advocate. In the early 16th century, Pope Leo X created the post of Promoter of the Faith Promoter, Fidei. The official's job was to argue against the proposed canonization of a saint by bringing up all that was unfavorable to the claim, a task that led to the unofficial title of Advocatus Diaboli, or Devil's Advocate. Shallot, red herring. A dried, salted, and smoked herring takes on a reddish hue. This cured fish has a pungent odor and was used in medieval times for training hounds and stag hunting, as they served as effective bait. The phrase first appears in a 15th century manuscript that includes it as a comedic line in a mock sermon. 17. Seal of approval. From carved precious stones to impressions on clay, lead, wax seals, and signet rings, seals have served to validate documents for thousands of years. A document bearing a seal is considered approved, granting it legal status in contracts and ensuring confidentiality in personal correspondence. 18. Sink or swim. In less enlightened times, judging a person had nothing to do with CSI or the scientific method. Instead, the water ordeal was used, a medieval practice of judging a person's innocence by casting them into a lake. To make the whole thing even weirder, if the victim sunk, they were innocent. But if they floated, they were guilty, the idea being that water wouldn't accept anyone who had rejected the water of baptism through their actions. Which raises the question of which is better, to float and be killed by an angry mob or to drown. Either way, a new phrase was born. 19. The apple of one's eye. Old English Pell doesn't only refer to apples, but to the pupil of the eye, which was thought to be an apple-shaped solid. Since it's essential for vision yet delicate, it should be cherished and protected. Thus, apple of the eye was used to indicate a much-loved person or thing for centuries. Even King Alfred the Great used this phrase. 20. Throw down the gauntlet. The piece of armor that knights wore to protect their forearms and hands was called a gauntlet. During tournaments or battles, a knight would challenge a fellow knight or enemy to a duel by throwing one of his gauntlets on the ground, Hopefully, he put it back before the actual battle started. It's 21, raining cats and dogs. In 17th century England, cities were often filthy and prone to flooding. When it rained heavily, the streets would turn into streams, carrying away dead animals that had accumulated in the gutters and alleys. This gave the impression that it was raining cats and dogs, literally. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for new videos.